Is this on?
Okay, it is. Yay.
So, Mandee, do you want to start, or do you want me to ask you questions?
Oh, geez. I don't know. It's been that kind of day. Maybe you could start.
All right, great.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. It's really great to be here, but I really don't like public speaking. But I'm very happy still to be here and see you all. So thanks for coming.
So, Oscar Hammerstein's house is just down the road off of, tell us where it is.
It's on East Road.
Mm-hmm. And everybody knows where it is?
It's technically in the township.
Okay, great. Anyway, it's just not far from there. It's not far from 202. If your doctor is at the farm, anybody know the farm? It's
The farm
right. It's right
the
by
barn
there.
complex,
Yeah,
I think
the
they call
barn,
it.
all that. It's right there. So let's talk about Oscar Hammerstein himself and why he's why his legacy is important to us. He wasn't just a singer-songwriter or Broadway, musical producer. He was groundbreaking.
Yes, he was. In my opinion, I feel like I know him so well because I'm working tirelessly on this effort, and so is my family, and we're all volunteers, by the way. We have a committee of over 20 people, and the Friends of Oscar Hammerstein, and then we have a small board that is growing. But yeah, I feel like I know him really well, and what makes Oscar super special to me and why I'm so driven is that he was truly a humanitarian. He didn't only write words that would resonate and work to create a culture of kindness at a time when the country really needed it the most, back in World War II, for example. He started the Pearl S. Buck House for biracial children so they could find homes. They were, abandoned, and the stories go on. You can talk to the Pearl S. Buck people about that, but he helped found that. Not only did he help found it, but he had his grandchildren adopted from there. So that's just one example of the kind of man he was. He had a child in his home who was his niece. She was experiencing some terrible, terrible racism. She wasn't being accepted into local schools. The reason why she was staying at his house was because her father was put into a concentration camp during World War II. He was half Japanese, and he was a business executive. His sister-in-law married this man. They had a loving relationship and had an 8-year-old daughter. Finally, the George School accepted her, and that was great, and she thrived since then.
And from that experience, he wrote during South Pacific the song "You've Got to Be Carefully Taught."
Exactly. And
about hate.
And that was inspired off of Jenny Watanabe, who was, again, about 8 years old, trying to get into schools, and then maybe she was older than that. Regardless, she has very fond memories of that property.
The other thing he did is he changed the way Broadway musicals are made. Before that,
Yes.
it was just no storyline, just a song would pop up.
But
now it's different.
Yeah, that's really important to people in the arts, whatever your medium is, whether it's visual arts, songwriting, you name it, creative writing. Before Oscar came out with Oklahoma and Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. Oh, what a beautiful morning. I can't sing, and that's why I'm more behind the scenes. That apparently is a love song to Doylestown. Yeah. So he looked out his window, and he saw that the corn was as high as an elephant's eye. Coincidentally, the barn in his backyard housed elephants from a circus life that they had before he had lived there. That was the history of that property. It was built in the 1800s. So maybe there's a coincidence there. But again, a love song to Doylestown. But when Oklahoma was written, and it was set for a musical, based off the book Green Grow the Lilacs, he really tried to tie in now emotion and meaning and depth. So when you walk away from a musical, maybe you get a message. Maybe you get something that resonates with you. Whereas before, that didn't happen.
He also was a mentor to Stephen Sondheim, who was a mentor to...
Yes, Lin-Manuel Miranda. So if we are successful and we open up this property to be a Broadway browsing museum in the barn and a house tour with docent tours, the house would revert back to the original way when Oscar lived and thrived there. That Broadway browsing museum would date back to the very first theater built in Times Square, which ultimately contributed to helping construct Broadway as we know it today. That was built by Oscar I, Oscar II's grandfather. Then there's vaudeville history, and then there's Stephen Sondheim history. There's, world history involved. So even if you don't like musical theater, if it's just not your bag, you're going to get something from there. There's going to be history about what was going on in the world that helped influence these songs. And the other thing that we were talking about earlier, Elle, was that Oscar really fought for the underdog. He was all about those anti-bullying campaigns before they were, thank God, ubiquitous and considered noble. He was putting his neck out, on the line. There is an FBI file on Oscar that is probably about yay thick, down in Washington, D.C. We're all welcome to go. If you ever go down to D.C. to do your research on anything that interests you, you could go and see that file yourself, from what I understand.
Okay, so it's only brick and mortar. Why is it important to save it?
Why is it important to save it? Well, the one thing that comes to my mind right away, I always think about my husband, who's Oscar's grandson, by the way. I just simply married into the family, and I love that guy. And actually, his passion for this project, when I talked to him and really first got to know Will, we were simply just friends. We coincidentally were working together on something for theater. There was such a love story involved about Oscar and that property, and he just wanted to honor his grandfather. He's actually doing, in a sense, you could say, a favor for not only Doylestown and the property in general and the legacy that's there, but the owner. She bought it at a time when a heavy metal rock band lived in there. They were renting it out from the owner that she bought it from, and the windows were boarded up, and they were just trashing the place and shooting videos and really disrespecting the property. So she had invested tons and tons of money because she actually really appreciated Oscar's history and the area's history. She did everything she could to actually buy the property and get it back to working condition, because it was not in working condition. And to subsidize these costs, she started it as a bed and breakfast, because it once was a bed and breakfast before she had owned it and before it had experienced the heavy metal. Yeah, so Oscar had died there in 1960 of stomach cancer. His very last song was Edelweiss from The Sound of Music. And he elected to die there. And so anyway, your question was? How
much money do you need?
How much money do we need? Well, to help make Christine whole, because again, her goal is to save this property so everybody can enjoy it, not just a few occasional guests at the bed and breakfast, and make it an education center too. We need about $1.5 million. We've raised over $300,000. We're all, again, 100% volunteers. We are looking for a development director. So if anybody is seasoned, we'd love to hear from you in raising funds, because I'm not that person. Yes, I see you have a question.
Do you have a website?
We do. Thank you for that. It's hammersteincenter.org.
Okay, and also I have experience in raising money.
Oh, we must talk. And before I forget, because it will slip my mind, there is some materials up front at the desk where you checked in that I just put there. You probably didn't see them. We have The Art of Oscar happening May 18th. It's open to the public. You can view the farm. It was once 80 acres. Be prepared. A highway is running through the property now. It's down to 4 acres, so the walls are closing in. But you can see the farm. You can see over 50 or approximately 50 pieces of artwork from artists of the region: New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, of course, lots of Bucks County people contributing, making art in honor of Oscar. And if we're not successful, and not to be morbid, but I will, it's been that kind of day, this could be a really great souvenir for you to, because we have pieces from $40 to over $5,000, to get a piece of Hammerstein history, because it really is part of Doylestown's pride. Hi. Good question. So my husband, Will, who set up the nonprofit with Christine, the property owner, got that going, got legal, got feasibility studies, all that good stuff, some engineering, went to zoning. They were in a battle for about 2 years. I hate to say battle, because everybody's friends at the end of the day. Everybody has their causes that they're working towards. The feasibility study had told the group that had the interest to save the property, the original group, that a theater should be on site. And the township hated that. They made it sound like it was going to be Atlantic City over there. And if you drive over there, as I said, there's a highway going through the property. There's a big barn complex across the street. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But there's a lot of activity. It's not a sleepy little, spot anymore. So anyway, that was going on. So the township issue really, it seems to be, was the theater. We appealed. And everybody told us we were crazy. You don't even waste your time or money. Appealing is never successful. And sure enough, we were able to negotiate with the township. And the bottom line was, if we remove the theater plant off the site and just put it somewhere else, they'll approve a museum and they'll allow us to save the home. And again, you could sell it to another Christine, but then will it, that maybe it really does appreciate the property, but will we all be able to enjoy it and get inspired by it? The one really cool thing about Oscar compared to, say, his contemporaries, and not to be disrespectful, but his musicals are performed around the world every day. Pop stars are, borrowing his lyrics and crediting him so they can make millions off their next hit song. There's commercials you don't even realize that are running. Like, his work is still so relevant.
It's a television show.
There's Oklahoma is coming out as a series. Not only did it just relaunch on Broadway, but it's going to be a television series now. Oh, and I see Ado Annie back there. She's awesome. She performed at Music Mountain Theater, and hi. But Sound of Music, the shooting locations where they shot the film back in the 60s, or was it the very late 50s? Regardless, over 300,000 people go there each year simply to experience those shooting sites. So, I think that's really great. And the thing about the museum, which is nice that the township worked on to respect the community members and the neighbors, there would be timed tickets. So you wouldn't have this influx at all times. It would be timed, it would be managed in such a way where we're still respecting the home and the neighborhood and all that good stuff. But I think it would really be great for businesses. Talk about, startups. I think it would really thrive. If you're really into the whole startup thing, if you haven't already, the Bilbao effect in Spain, it's really cool. Now, granted, we're not going to be that big, and we don't have Frank Gehry designing a building for us. But it's really tremendous what these cultural institutions can do for other businesses.
I think the reason Doylestown is Doylestown, and the reason that people want to come start up here, is because our design standards and we value our historical buildings, and to just let that be torn down is just a shame. Is the smallest word I can think of. It's a tragedy.
Absolutely, and in fact, we are on the. There is a special plaque. I don't know why it's escaped me right now. That says that it's like on the historic landmark or something. That does not protect us. Many people think it does, and it doesn't.
Okay. Anybody else? Jonathan? Or-
Mandee, we've talked a lot over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, but you've actually had a lot of startup experience.
Yeah.
Bucks County Children's Museum, Bucks County Playhouse, New Feathers Productions, and now this. So really starting from zero, right?
That's right.
So can you just quickly kind of contrast some of the emotion maybe that's in this one that was involved in the others?
Okay. Yeah, so let's see here. Even though I'm pretty shy, I happen to be nosy. I'm really interested in what everybody else has going on. I happen to be at a coffee shop right around the corner here, and I'm working on my master's paper. I'm going to LaSalle University, and it was during the recession, single mom of 3. And for like 10 years, it was a real struggle, let me tell you. So here this recession's going on, and I'm working hard. I'm trying to get through this, and I hear these lovely ladies in a circle, all happy. I'm admiring them. And they're talking about art, they're talking about a museum, they're talking about polo, and they're talking about children. And I'm like, I just had to get up and introduce myself and say, I'm really sorry for eavesdropping on you, but you've got my attention. You're talking about things that I'm just so in love with, children, art, horses. Tell me more. So they started telling me about a woman that sometimes I'll refer to as a dreamer, because it really was just a dream at that very moment. She wanted to start a children's museum here in Bucks County. There had never been one done before. She had a son in a time period that maybe had some special needs or needed some special attention, and she found solace in going to different children's museums all around like the East Coast, and they really enjoyed it as a family, and she wanted to make that happen here in Bucks County. So I loved that story, and I volunteered. I highly recommend volunteering if you don't do it already. You meet the greatest people. It changed my life. From that time, the moment we opened the doors, or we're about to open the doors, I finally started getting a bit of a salary that was really nice, and I became the director of communications. And it was my responsibility to get the word out there on a $1,200 budget. So I went gangbusters and worked tirelessly. I had to involve my kids, and it was a really good time. But anyway, from that success, we quadrupled our projections that we had for the year within, I think, the first 2 months. The news started knowing about our success, and they introduced me to some people at the Bucks County Playhouse because I told them I want to volunteer there. That place can't be dark anymore. It's so depressing. So starting off as like wanting to be a volunteer, then at the Bucks County Playhouse, they hired me on the spot, and I launched that building, doing all their PR initiatives. So I got them in the Wall Street Journal. I got them on the Mike Smirkana show a couple times. The list goes on, and it was really awesome. And actually, that's where I met my husband, at the Bucks County Playhouse. But it all started from volunteering. But yeah, I had a background in corporate communications. And but it's funny, working from a budget and having an ad budget and spending money going to nonprofit, the way your mind really shifts, it's crazy, you know. And then when I have clients who want to pay me, and they want to buy ads, I'm just not used to that. But yeah. So anyway, startups and getting that messaging out there is really my thing. And in fact, like as I said 10 times over, we're all volunteers over there. And the one thing that we did start doing for social media was we started live from Oscar's living room. So if there's anybody locally here with musical talent, please let me know, because we feature local musicians in Oscar's living room, and they get to see, not only the home, but they get to perform and talk about their talent, and and it's like really a nice thing to do. And we have about 59,000 views, which I think is good considering it's all organic. Yeah. So thanks for listening. I hope to see you again.